So we've essentially covered 2 out of the 3 major dominant positions. We've covered some basic escapes from the mount, and we've covered some basic escapes out of side control. The most dominant position, which is when your opponent takes your back, is coming down the line now. Okay? We haven't gotten there yet because we've been focused on the objective of never allowing our opponent to get in behind us, so we are keeping our back towards the floor and always trying to face our opponent. So we dealt with the first position of the mount, and now we dealt with side control. Now what we're going to fall into is positions that are not necessarily as dominant as the 3 major, being the mount, side control, and the back, but they're going to play really important, dangerous elements to anyone's offensive game as far as exposing dominant positions for their benefit or exposing attacks. So our defense of these positions is very important. It's as important, if not more important, than the major positions, because these are the places where our opponents are going to transition to with the idea of getting to a better spot. So the first one of those that we're going to cover is the north-south position. So my opponent has essentially gotten past my guard, past side control, and he's chosen to go all the way north, as far away from my legs as possible. Okay? So this is where we're going to be. What we need to understand about this position is I cannot allow him to have inside arm position. I cannot allow his arms under my armpits, because that is essentially the same as giving up underhooks. So if Josh were now to travel to side control, he has one side exposed, which very quickly becomes an underhook, and now I'm in the worst of my defensive options in side control. Okay? So what you need to understand about the north-south position is the major battle in the north-south position will be for the inside arm positions. And everything that you do that gets you away from winning the inside arm position battle will make things progressively harder for you. So now, the first position that we're going to learn is always going to be kind of a backtrack to the prior position, kind of keeping us within the realm of things that we are already experienced and comfortable with. So if I'm in north-south position, and I've done a good job of securing the inside, so not letting Josh in under my armpits, now, if I'm not comfortable or knowledgeable in this position on how to escape it, one of the things I can do is force him to return to side control. How I do that is simple. I'm going to pick a side, and I'm going to take one arm, and I'm going to go over to the other side of his head and now grab his shoulder. Okay? Now, it would feel strange for Josh to rotate against where there's a frame on his head. So he's going to want to go away from the pressure of his head and claim a side control. Now, before he settles into his position, I would like to shrink my hip out a little bit and fold my arm in to at least get my head control arm in place, so that now when Josh takes side control, even though I'm in the worst of the 3 options, I can now go into our last escape from the side control position here. Okay? That's going to be our first option from the north-south, forcing my opponent to return to side control. So now what we're actually going to do is try to escape directly from the north-south position. There are a couple of key pieces of information that we're going to need in order to do this. So now, the basics here. Once I have won the inside position, I want to make the habit of placing my hands on my opponent's shoulders rather than going to, let's say, a position like this. Okay? The difference being that much more of my arm becomes exposed, and I limit the distance that I can keep him away at. So if I'm here with my biceps, Josh can now position much more of his body on top of me. It's much more uncomfortable, okay? If I can keep my hands on his shoulders, now, even though my elbows are lower and my arms less exposed, Josh can't pressure onto me as much, and we remain more in a chest-to-chest kind of position. It's better. There's no weight on my abdomen, and my hips are free. Now from here, I have to use intelligent methods of extricating my body weight from under him, okay? Because in Jiu-Jitsu, I never want to use any strength. So the two key movements that we're going to use are the pendulum, right? So anchoring myself here onto my opponent's shoulders, locking my legs together, and swinging from one hip across the bottom to the other side so that it frees my body away, okay? The other movement that we can learn to utilize is what I call the mechanics press. So kind of like when a mechanic is working underneath a car and he's laying on a dolly and he wants to remove himself from under the vehicle, right? So he's going to be sliding out from under the car. So he pushes on the vehicle, but now if he's on a dolly and his legs are up, when he pushes his butt down, he's going to run into his feet, and that's as far as he's going to get. So what he does is he takes his legs and kicks them away and digs his heels into the floor. Now, when he presses here and shoots his butt out, he helps also to pull with his legs in, and you get much further out, okay? So those are gonna be our two key tools to creating distance. For the second escape, we are gonna rotate to our guard. So I created the maximum amount of distance, okay? So now, I can do just the pendulum, just the mechanics press, or a combination of the two, okay? But once I free myself from under Josh, this is the important moment, okay? I don't want to remove all pressure because now I can't spin. I don't have anything to spin off of and he can transition. What I want to do is I keep both hands on him, okay? But one hand is real pressure, where I'm physically pushing, and the other is false pressure, okay? Now, on the hand where I have real pressure, I'm not trying to keep Josh away, but I'm trying to anchor myself into him. And now, I'm gonna lift my feet off the ground so that as Josh pushes in, he is actually going to spin me. Go, Josh. The goal, of course, being to have created enough space between us so that when that takes place, I can spin and reclaim my guard. Our third north-south escape is going to be very similar to our second. The only difference now being that when I do my mechanics press and my pendulum escapes, I can't generate anywhere near as much space. So this is an instance now where rather than creating an incredible amount of distance between me and him where I completely relieve the pressure, maybe I just barely managed to get Josh's chest off of my chest and we're still kind of in a face-to-face position, okay? So he's being much more aggressive with the amount of weight he's trying to impart on me. So now I'm here, hands placed on his shoulders, and I'm doing my pendulums and my mechanics trying to get out, and the furthest that I can extract myself is maybe about here, okay? There's nowhere near enough room here for me to be able to rotate to my guard. If I try to rotate here, Josh will definitely end up in my side control, okay? Now, if I'm not comfortable with the north-south position, but I am comfortable with my side control escapes, maybe that in itself isn't a bad thing, okay? But I want to get as much weight off of me as possible. And by spinning in north-south and ending up in side control, all I'm doing is letting Josh get to another dominant position where he can continue to put weight on me, okay? So what I'm going to do this time, since I've only been able to get out as far as this, is now I'm going to turn away from my real pressure hand here. I'm going to turn this way, and now I'm going to turtle up here, immediately sinking my elbows low, and now being immediately ready to make contact with Josh's arms, okay? Always. But now, I'm in a position where transitions will ensue from the turtle position, and that's going to be the next section we cover.